All right.
Looks like she's trying to call in. We'll give her a second.
We have the site plan on file too. Would you like me to pull up the site plan as you're speaking?
I can't hear all of you on the phone. Hello?
Yeah. Jay, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Anthony, yes.
I can hear you guys. I thought they were phone.
So Melody, the agenda does have a
Okay.
call-in number,
Yeah,
if you don't mind trying that.
I tried to, I did go, I don't understand what meeting numbers to press on to them.
Jay, Melody, I think you're going to have to leave the meeting altogether and just call in. That's probably how this is going to work. Just it's my guess.
Oh, there they go. So while we're waiting, just for the sake of moving this along, Anthony, if you don't mind showing the site plan that we have, and then Mr. Russell maybe giving us some details of the proposal, and as we're waiting for Melody to call in, she can then provide a bit of background when she comes back in.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
All right. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yes.
So why don't we go to the site layout plan? I believe it's sheet, the next one right here. Up, go back one. Okay. All right. So just to kind of give a layout, a little history here. So for lack of a better term, I'll call it the first phase of this project was to build the 40,000 square foot building that you see there to the left, closest to Narragansett Park Drive. That is for their trucking operation, which includes some offices, parking, maintenance service, refueling station, and it also includes associated utilities and stormwater management system. So that was all approved by Rhode Island DEM for stormwater and RIPTs permit, and then also by the Planning Commission for development plan review at that stage. Jay, you could probably cite the date on that when that was done, but I'm going to say probably in the last couple of years. So I'll refer to this part of the project as phase 2. So if we can zoom in a little bit on the site plan, particularly on the secondary building there in the middle of the site or towards the rear third of the site. The applicant would also like to put up a 9,000 square foot space metal building, which is to include a number of truck bays. It's essentially the same use as the initial building, without the offices, without some of the other support operation.
Could someone hear me come in now?
I can hear you, Melody. So I'm just describing the second phase of this project. So where the building is located, its general use is the same of the primary building. So it's located on the site.
Recording in progress.
Is to ensure proper circulation of tractor trailers.
Recording stopped.
I gotta get out of it. I'm sure I was making that noise.
Okay.
Mike, are you still there?
I'm here. So
that was me trying to do the meeting.
Okay, Melanie, I'm just finishing up on just a little bit of a engineering and site plan overview. So we just wanted to ensure the location, the orientation could effectively maneuver tractor trailers in and out of this building, which it does. It meets the zoning requirements for setbacks, on the lot. We provided a similar, if we want to, if we can advance to the next sheet, I can show you some of the infrastructure in association with this footprint. So next sheet of the set should, there we go. So it's a little bit more. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're extending, we're providing a similar drainage system. The soil material out here is very nice medium sand. Groundwater's not an issue, so we're kind of repeating the system that we used on the primary building, and then we're extending utilities to this rear building as well. So again, the building meets the zoning requirements for dimensional setbacks. We're providing stormwater management and utilities and adequate site circulation for tractor trailers. Now that Melody's on, I can let her or Mark speak in more detail about the operational aspects of the structure of the facility.
I'm sorry that you guys can't see me anymore, but I'm glad that you guys can now hear me. I'm sorry for my ignorance with the technology. So yeah, we're just looking to put up another building behind the new building that we've just moved into. And mostly it is to like store some of our vehicles. Not sure what other information I can volunteer.
Well, I can kind of pick up on that again, Melody, with some of the other site aspects. So there was from the initial development plan review application with the Planning Commission and the DEM approval, there was a second driveway added by the applicant. The Planning Department had asked the applicant to provide some information in support of the development plan review application in the way of adequacy for or describing its use and its structural adequacy, for lack of a better term phrase, and then also its stormwater adequacy. So we had submitted some correspondence in support of the application addressing those two items. I had reviewed the Planning Department's staff report, which seems agreeable to me. I certainly, and the applicant certainly wants to go through some of these recommendations when we get to that point and talk through those so that we're all on the same page as to what needs to be done and what they're agreeable to. So that's an overview. We have not yet gone back to DEM for a modification to this original stormwater permit. We wanted to get through the city process first to get some feedback and then proceed on to DEM.
All right. Thank you. Commission members, do you have any questions regarding this application?
No, at this time.
All right. Jay, I don't have any questions. I guess other commission members do not. Next item would be staff comments or?
Yeah, I'm happy to do the staff comment just because the public comment can be a little cumbersome. So maybe I'll address some of the questions and then we can open it up for public comment as needed.
Okay.
Sure. So Jay Rosa of the Pawtucket Planning Department. Just a little bit of background so we're all on the same page. Obviously, the Planning Commission approved the construction of a 40,000 square foot freight trucking facility at this location for M&G's operations. They moved from School Street a few years ago. and the Planning Commission approved that proposal in December of 2019. They are now requesting to construct a 9,000 square foot accessory storage structure at the rear of the property. Typically, new construction of this size does not require full Planning Commission review, but we as staff did elect to refer this project to you because it is essentially a modification of the ongoing construction project at the site. And there are a few site engineering items that Mr. Russell mentioned that we want to clean up moving forward, just make sure that we're all in agreement. In terms of the accessory structure itself, it's pretty minimal and is situated at the rear of the property, as I mentioned, so not overly visible from the public right of way. The metal construction, essentially prefab, metal corrugated, concrete slab construction is pretty common for the Narragansett Business Park, really consistent with the design of other structures and the existing structure on this property for that matter. And as Mr. Russell mentioned, the applicant proposes to install subsurface infiltration chambers to treat the stormwater on site that would be generated from this new impervious surface, that being the building itself. From a zoning compliance standpoint, the structure satisfies all applicable dimensional and use requirements for the industrial zone. It's permitted and it's situated in such a way that it needs no dimensional relief. The big items that we want to make sure we're all in agreement on are specifically related to drainage easements and sediment control for the entirety of the 7.5 acre property. Currently, as you can see on this site plan, there is a drainage easement that is in place along the front property line. This is in place to maintain a drainage swale that runs through the entirety of the park, intended to be a cohesive, comprehensive stormwater management feature for the entirety of the park. As Mr. Russell mentioned, the applicant installed a culvert to allow for a second driveway access point to this property. That's at the northern end. It's a new access point from Narragansett Park Drive. In doing so, we obviously took note of that not being included in the prior Planning Commission application. So we requested that Mr. Russell, as the civil engineer for the project, submit additional detail regarding the structural and stormwater capacity of this new culvert. Make sure it's safe for vehicles, make sure it's of adequate diameter to handle stormwater management as it should and as it's required to based on the easement with the city of Pawtucket itself. Basically to ensure functionality of the swale. He has done so. Mr. Russell, as he mentioned, has done so, provided an analysis of the culvert and the new driveway, and that is satisfactory to our easement requirements for the city. Moving forward, we will require the installation of vegetation and or stone within the swale itself to prevent sediment buildup that may obstruct the new culvert. Obviously, it's still under construction, but we do need to see vegetation or stone to really stabilize that swale to prevent any sediment buildup, again, for the purpose of functionality of the swale long-term. Lastly, the current condition of the property is unpaved, and the two driveway access points do not include curb cuts as required. As a result of that, we are seeing some pooling of water on the site and sediment migration off of the site into the public right of way when trucks specifically are exiting the property. So to address that, we strongly recommend the immediate installation of curb cuts through the DPW permitting process. That's for both driveways to access the property, including significant aprons to offset the sediment issue that we're seeing there. We also recommend that a paved circulation route for trucks on the site be installed as part of the ongoing construction at the property. That's again, so to minimize any sediment issues that we're seeing there. Aside from these items that are to be addressed moving forward, we find that the proposal is consistent with the city comprehensive plan, specifically, bear with me while I find that, specifically land use goal number 1, to protect successful land uses, including viable industrial areas. Economic development policy number 2, to support the maintenance and expansion of existing businesses in Pawtucket. And objective number 3, to increase the number of jobs in Pawtucket. So based on these findings, we do recommend conditional approval subject to 7 conditions that I will read for the record. 1, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall install 2 curb cuts at the Narragansett Park Drive right-of-way to include concrete and granite curbing materials and an apron intended to prevent sediment from shifting off of the property and into the public right-of-way. These curb cuts shall be reviewed and approved by the Pawtucket Department of Public Works prior to installation. 2, the applicant shall pave all employee parking areas using bituminous or equivalent material in accordance with zoning ordinance section 410-78. 3, the applicant shall maintain the drainage swale along the front, which is east, and side, which is north of the property, in working order at all times. Vegetation and/or stone shall be installed within this swale as needed to prevent sediment buildup that may adversely impact the functionality of the overall Narragansett Industrial Park stormwater management system. 4, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall provide proof of final DEM approval for all proposed subsurface infiltration systems. 5, the applicant shall install a clear site circulation route for trucks using bituminous or equivalent material in order to reduce dust and standing water that tends to arise due to the existing gravel surface area of the site. 6, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall receive all utility connection permits, including National Grid, NBC, and the Pawtucket Water Supply Board as needed. And 7, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall submit an updated final landscaping plan that specifically includes landscape screening for employee parking areas and exterior freight storage areas.
Mr. Russell, you have,
Yes, sir. If I may just touch on one of those or a couple of those conditions, Jay. So regarding landscaping or vegetation and/or stone in the swale within the easement, I'm assuming that because this site is contributing from one side, that it would only be required on one side slope of the swale. Provided that it's intact. Because you're really only controlling the sediment from the site. So I just want to be clear, or I would like either your department or the commission to be kind of clear what the expectation there is in that area.
So obviously there's some deference to your engineering expertise and the project designer. The goal, at least from our perspective in this recommended condition, is to maintain the swale and the culvert that's been installed in solid working order. So there's no sediment buildup. I agree with you. The common design is that we see throughout the industrial park is vegetation and or stone on the side of the property itself. So if that is, in your professional opinion, the approach that achieves the goal that we're looking for, I think we're solid with that.
Yeah, obviously we can't control what's coming in on the opposite side of the swale from Narragansett Park Drive, but certainly measures can be taken on the applicant's side of that swale to address those concerns. There's no issue at all, and Melody, are you in agreement with that particular condition?
Yeah. Yes, Mark and I discussed with Jay earlier, and we're leaning towards some stone, and that is agreeable to us.
And then the other thing from my edification with respect to the screening of employee parking and trailer storage and the like, Jay, you're talking about a solid vegetated screening, or is fencing applicable, acceptable, or what are the options there?
So the standard for parking areas is at the end of each row of parking stalls. So it doesn't need to be within the parking area. It's at the edge of the parking stalls. Our preference is solid vegetative, so arborvitae, evergreen. is generally the standard, and that's pretty consistent with the rest of the business park.
Okay, Melody and Mark, you in agreement with that?
Where are those? Are you talking in the,
On the sides of the employee parking.
Jay, that's to screen the parking from the roadway?
Not necessarily the roadway, it's from abutting properties. So
Okay.
the side of the parking areas. And
Okay.
again, that's our parking standard for areas with more than 6 vehicles. So we're just trying to be consistent with that section of the zoning ordinance.
for the employee parking or the truck parking?
For both. So if there's certainly the employee parking, and there's appears to be some exterior freight storage at the rear of the property.
Are you saying all the way down both sides of the property for arborvitae bushes?
On the north and south of the employee parking area, and to the south of the rear freight storage that abuts basically the East Providence line and the Hasbro facility to the south there. It doesn't need to be the entirety of the side property line. It's just to accommodate the exterior freight storage and to screen that from abutting property owners.
Out there on East Providence side, quite a bit of trees and bushes on their property. I don't know if you.
Alongside the Hasbro building.
Yes.
So there's some that already exist. Is that acceptable?
So we can certainly work with you with the final landscaping plan, but if that vegetation is not on your property, our standard is that it needs to be met on your property as a vegetative screen for the exterior parking of vehicles.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Mark and Melody, are you okay with the other conditions that Jay outlined?
Well, you guys are discussing paving the employee parking. We just had a meeting today with a solar panel company who said he went with his plan that he would have to dig up that out to the street to install a new utility line for the solar panels.
We're considering leasing the rooftop for solar to help offset our electrical cost, which would happen, I guess, in about a year if we pick somebody to do it.
So you're saying that the electrical conduit for that potential future roof solar would have to dig up the paved parking area?
Correct. Just for the employee parking, for just the car parking.
So it's hard for us to deviate from our standards for a potential future installation that we've not seen at all. If there's a way to pave your parking area in a manner that allows the conduit to go around it, or it's designed in a way that allows for conduit in the future, it's just tough for me to allow an unpaved parking area to continue based on potential future solar that may be installed.
What if you had like signed contracts for the solar project?
Well, Mark, what about if you make condition, put in underground conduits in preparation for the solar panels and the electric connections?
That's a good idea, Steve.
Yeah, we could do that.
I think that's a very good idea.
So let's plan on paving the parking, but you'd have to coordinate with the solar company as to what their needs would be to get conduits out to the from your building out to the roadway.
Right, that's a very good idea, and we're in negotiations right now, so nothing's actually set in stone, but it looks like we are going to go with some sort of solar panel.
Okay.
But I'll definitely do that. That's a very good idea. So yeah, I'm good with all the conditions.
All right. Any other issues with the proposed conditions?
Not with me.
Okay.
Anything else?
Melody, you good?
I'm good, yeah. Thank you for doing all the talking at the beginning, Mike. I'm so sorry, everybody, that I blew it with the technology.
Okay.
That's all right, Melody. I don't think it was your fault. I think it was just a bad connection.
But I tested the speakers before, there's a way to test it. I thought I did, but I failed. Sorry.
No, it happens. Any other questions from the commissioners?
No, all set?
All set. Jay, I guess, do we open it up to any public questions?
Yes, it is a public hearing, so we're required to take any public comment. So if there's any attendees in the webinar who have any comments or questions specifically related to the 444 Narragansett Park Drive proposal, again, you have the ability to hit the raise your hand icon if you're on the computer. And if you're on the phone, you can press *9 and that will raise your hand and we will allow you to speak. So I'll give it a few seconds for anyone that may wish to speak on this proposal. Anthony, I don't know if you're trying to say something. We couldn't hear it.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little bit tough, but yes. Yeah, Anthony, we don't.
Maybe that connection. I was just gonna say that we have the Q&A function too.
Okay, so Anthony, I don't know if it's your.
Submit a question and write it that way.
So Anthony, I don't know if it's your internet connection, but I caught enough of it. There's also a Q&A function for any member of the public that you can type your question as well. So we'll say going once for public comment. Going twice for any public comments. And Mr. Chairman, it doesn't appear that we have any public comment for the Narragansett Park proposal at this time.
All right, and with no further questions from the commission, I guess we will entertain a motion to approve, a conditional approval, including the 7, I believe it was 7, yeah, the 7 conditions as outlined in the technical review committee report.
I can make a motion.
Motion is made by Commissioner Renaud for a conditional approval
I second it.
and seconded by Commissioner Latte. And we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Latte,
Yes.
Commissioner Renaud,
Yes.
Commissioner Kaloje,
Yes.
and Commissioner Martins.
We still do not have Commissioner
Not-
Martins.
Okay, and Commissioner Pedro votes yes also. So it's a conditional approval for the site development.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
So,
We're having some technical difficulties with our,
Yeah, this usually is not the case.
no, not at all.
I think it's potentially the webinar that is making it a little bit wonky. So
Wow.
we have quite a few folks for the Fortuitous team, so I'll work on bringing them all in.
Recording in progress.
So we have Dan. Dan, if you don't mind mentioning the other members of your team that need to come in.
Yeah, probably Odell.
So we already have Darren. We'll bring Odell in.
Should be Emily Foster.
Emily Foster we will bring in.
I'm not sure if anybody from Dupree joined, whether it's Len Bradley or Dana Nisbet. Perhaps not.
Not that I can see.
Okay. No, that's all good. I think this is our team tonight. And also, I think on the sideline, we have somebody from Demio Construction. I don't know if Blair Oliver is on.
Yes.
Why don't you bring Blair in? I think that's probably it, Jay. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Dan. And I just made you a co-host for when you need to share your screen.
Great.
All right, Mr. Chairman, it seems like we're all set.
All right, next up is public hearing regarding a preliminary plan review for 0 Taft Street, 200 Taft Street, 45 Division Street, and 0 School Street. Tidewater Landing Phase 1 to include an 11,000 seat multi-use stadium with associated public access and parking. And representing the applicant is, go ahead, Mr. Cooper.
So that's me. Thank you all for your time. It's been about 6 months since we spent some time together back in I think January and February. We've been hard at work on design that we're excited to be able to present to you. We've had a number of other milestones since then, but really have been focused on getting the first component of phase 1 to this point. So I'm pleased to present on behalf of Fortuitous Partners. So for the record, Dan Krober, Director of Development and Managing Partner of Fortuitous Partners. So I've had the pleasure of working with Jay in the planning department for the last couple of years. And we, as I said, it's been a great couple of years planning this project. And the good news is we have a full team here representing us today, which shows that we're getting very close to starting construction, which is quite exciting. So I'm going to present my screen now, Jay, which I think I can do. Everybody see that?
Yep.
All right. So let me just get situated here. All right, so I put together a little agenda just so you know what we plan to present tonight. Presentation will probably be about 20 to 25 minutes if I can keep it short, and then obviously we'll open up to questions. But with us today on the call, you'll see Blair Oliver. Blair is Senior Project Manager. Blair's managing the project for Dimeo Construction. We recently awarded the general contract to Dimeo Construction. They've really been leaning in for the past month that they've been on board on logistics and scheduling and estimating, and they're getting bid packages ready. So hopefully we could start construction here in the fall. Also on the call, Jonathan Blaine with Odell Architecture is on, in case there's any questions on the architecture or things that fall outside of kind of my expertise. Additionally, we have Darren Overton. Darren is with SLR International. Darren's a civil engineer, professional engineer, and is responsible for the site plans that you'll see. So Darren will fill in any blanks that I miss here. Also, Emily Foster is a traffic engineer with SLR International. Emily and I have been working on the parking and traffic plans, which we'll go through kind of at a high level in the presentation, but Emily's here to infill anything I miss on that end as well. And then also not represented here tonight, I don't think, but Dupree Engineering is a great local engineering firm. They've supported SLR on the local, on some of the permitting aspects of the project, also designed the drainage system, stormwater system, and the erosion control systems. So we'll cover that stuff tonight as well. And we've got a whole other host of folks on our team, from lighting consultants to audio-visual consultants that we don't have on the call, but hopefully we can answer any questions for you that you might have on that front. So with that, that's our team that's here tonight. I'm going to start by kind of going through the overall Tidewater Landing project, which really hasn't changed much, which is a good thing, since we had the master plan approved back in, I think it was early February or January. So the plan is very similar. This is kind of the first phase of the master plan that we're coming forward with this level of detail. We'll go through the stadium plans, some of the beautiful renderings that Jonathan and his team at Odell put together, which this is one of them that you see here. it really is a remarkable way to illustrate and get everybody to understand exactly what this is going to be. It's also a great design tool for us, so we can make changes before we build something, and we don't like it, we can see it in real time and really see what it looks like. So Jonathan can walk through any questions that you have on those, but we'll go through the plans, renderings, the specific site plans. I'll talk a little bit about the specific parcels that are part of this application, part of the broader application and zoning. We'll go through the utility connections, the conversations we've had, approvals we have from other utilities. Again, stormwater management we know is of import to this board. So we'll talk through high level stormwater management, how we're approaching things. And then parking, clearly we know is probably of interest. So I'll go through our parking plans and kind of our strategies on how to deal with parking, which we put a lot of time into. And then finally, go into the schedule, which was submitted with the site plan application. Really the critical dates there are starting hopefully this fall and finishing playing soccer in the stadium in spring of 2023, and then turn it over for questions. So this is the master plan. This is the same master plan that was approved back in January. So this was phase one of the master plan, as you'll probably recall. This includes what we call the Tidewater site, which is on the west side of the Seekonk River, and the Division Street site, which is on the east side of the river. So starting on the west side is the stadium. So the stadium is, we're kind of calling this phase 1A right now. This application is for phase 1A. It's taken us about 6 months to get the design to a point where we could submit for all of our applications. So this site plan application, we're working on CRMC Ascent. We've been working with their staff, working with all the other utilities to get to this point. So we've been super focused on getting the stadium ready for permitting, ready for construction. So that's what this application is for this piece and some of the other pieces like the river walk that connects up to Town Landing. So that's what this application is. That being said, we are working on the balance of the project. We absolutely will be coming forward in the coming months on further parts of the project, being the building north. Again, this was a parking garage on the inside of this building wrapped with ground floor retail. So this would be restaurants, retail spaces on the ground floor, and then apartments up above. The bridge, of course, is the beautiful iconic bridge that's going to span the river, connect both sides. So that'll be part of the next application we make. The parking lot in the corner here, it's already kind of a parking lot there. The office building, the retail in the middle, the additional apartments south of that, and then the riverfront improvements, park, et cetera. I want to reiterate, we're completely behind all that stuff. We're absolutely planning to proceed with all of this. The stadium just happens to be the first piece. It really is the anchor of the project. And we focused our effort on this. We want to get under construction, and then we're going to move our attention to the balance of the project. And this was just a different view, another one of those gorgeous renderings that Odell had done, showing the stadium on the west side of the river with that building to the north, the beautiful bridge connecting, and then the development over on the Division Street side. And I can flip back to this whenever we need to. These are some of the renderings inside of the stadium that really you get to understand what the stadium's going to be, how we're looking at it. So I'll start in this left corner. So the stadium is going to be very unique. It's going to be a soccer-centric stadium that's capable of hosting all sorts of other events. So the beauty of a rectangular stadium is it really is multi-purpose. So we'll be able to host not only football, which in the soccer sense is the European way we call the sport, but also American football, lacrosse, field hockey, rugby. All of those sports can play in the stadium. Also, the potential to have concerts in the stadium as well. But this corner kick terrace is a unique area. In each one of the four corners, there'll be experiences, different experiences throughout the stadium. This will be one of them. So kind of a premium experience in the corner here. We will have a beer garden over behind that corner kick terrace that you can kind of see in the distance. This rendering down in the lower corner is the stadium club. So that's at the kind of midfield point. And looking down, there'd be a premium club up at the midfield point. This is, we spent quite a bit of time talking about this area last night at the Riverfront Commission meeting, which went very well. I'm sure Jay will have that in his report. But this is really a really cool amenity for the stadium. It's a riverside bar that's really designed to focus, obviously, on what's happening in the stadium, but to focus, potentially on non-game days, what's happening outside the stadium, which is the beautiful river. So there'd be an opportunity to sit up above the river and experience the beauty of the Seekonk River and everything that we're going to build. Then this is looking over on the West Concourse underneath where the upper level seating, but this is the experience on that side. Circling around, this is another one of those corner kick terraces looking back into the stadium from the south to the north. You get kind of a broad view of what the stadium will look like. And then on this one over here called South Aerial, that's just up in the sky a little bit, a bird's eye view, looking into the stadium, seeing the river on the right side. And then at the south end of the building is where we're going to have on the lower level of the building, that'll be the locker rooms, that'll be the areas where the press meet. That'll be where the training room is, the laundry. Actually, under here, we do have kind of refuse areas, trash areas are all kind of enclosed. That's on the lower level. And then the second level of this building, these buildings are concessions and bathrooms up on the concourse level. In another image, this is that kind of ground level of that building from that south face. This here is a picture of the concession food hall, which right now is branded as the Riverside Food Hall on the south side of the stadium. And this one gets us excited. I talked about this last night. We have one boat shown in the river. Our hope as part of this project is that we're going to have a lot of boats on the river. Once we finish this project, we really want to bring the pride and bring people back onto the water like they were. I know we've seen photos historically where the river really was a vibrant place. And we want to see that again, whether it's kayaks, sailboats, motorboats. We'd love to have people coming up, from Providence, from Newport, to visit the site, to visit Pawtucket. And we think there's an opportunity to do that here. You can see the stadium, how it sits upland, and then the river walk that's up next to the stadium here. This image gets me excited, just seeing what, on the ground level, what the stadium will look like, what the river walk will look like conceptually. Really going to be beautiful, going to be a great space to be. This is another view, seeing that Riverside bar in the Riverwalk, how it complements that bar. And then finally, this is one of the spaces in that building to the north that we will be coming back soon for an application for that building to the north. But you can start to get a feel for what that building, what those retail spaces are going to be out on that plaza. On that building to the north there. And then these plans aren't nearly as exciting. As I like to say, it looks like an engineer drew them, but they're pretty important. Obviously, these are the site plans. So this is the layout and landscaping plan that was submitted with our application. And I'll walk you through from south to north, walk you through what this plan shows. And north on this plan is to the left of the page. So as I say, south, we're going to start here. So the stadium is located on land owned by National Grid. We've been working with National Grid for almost 18 months. They've been an incredible partner for us. We've been working very collaboratively with them. They're about to start their remediation work beneath the stadium. They're doing so to make it possible for the stadium to basically sit right on top of the work that they're doing. So they're doing a lot of work to make this project possible. So we're excited to be at the point we are where National Grid will be starting their remediation work beneath the stadium hopefully early this fall, potentially September of this year. You will see that they've done a fair amount of work. If you've driven by the area, they've done a lot of work on site already. They had permits previous to the stadium being proposed here. They had permits to do remediation of the site. So they've done some of that work, mostly to the south. They built a new bulkhead, which extends up onto the site, and they are remediating that site, capping the site, and they'll be moving into the stadium area here in the coming months. But starting on the south side, you'll be able to enter into the stadium site. So employees on a non-game day, potentially some public, will be able to park down in this parking lot. So the driveway comes off of this intersection of Tidewater Street and Taft Street, which runs here. The driveway comes down into a parking lot located here that will be screened by some evergreen screens screening the National Grid substation to the south. Then we have the stadium, which you saw better probably in the illustrative views. The stadium sits on the central portion of the site here. To the east of the stadium, we have this Riverwalk Trail in this area, which is bordered by some beautiful native plantings that'll be placed in a landscape strip adjacent to a riprap revetment. So National Grid, everything in green, National Grid is actually performing that work. They will be building that work on their own in coordination with our work. So that's kind of the main stadium site. To the north of the stadium, there's going to be a great plaza, a public plaza, where we see a lot of events. And the first image I had up really showed how this is going to be activated. But we see farmers markets, we see art festivals, all sorts of music being played in this public plaza. So it's going to be a beautiful plaza space that's then connected down to the Riverwalk via an accessible ramp. So you can get down via this is a ramp here that gets you down to the Riverwalk. There's also a set of stairs that get you down to that Riverwalk here. So all of this, you'll be able to come from Taft Street, go to the plaza, get down to the Riverwalk. Should be really nice. To the north of the stadium, this is where our future building will be located. In working with Demio Construction in their kind of pre-construction planning, they do need some areas. This site's going to be fairly congested. There's not a lot of space for lay down of materials, of construction vehicles. So they do have some areas that they're proposing to do some construction parking. They'll put their job trailers up here. And then down below, they'll also have some materials that get stored in this area here. And they will have an access point that comes off of Taft Street for their construction vehicles will come into the site via this location. So temporarily, this application proposes kind of a construction laydown area. We've made Demio aware that as soon as we get a building ready to go here, we're going to have to find a place to put that material. We don't want to hold up the project because we've got material sitting here. The idea is that hopefully this parking lot at that point will be constructed and that material could be moved over to that parking lot. Additionally, what we show on this site plan application is the Riverwalk that starts at the National Grid property line here, and it works up to Town Landing. So Town Landing, as you all may know, I believe the city is going to be rebuilding the boat launch bulkhead, I think starting soon. So that area is in here. Everything we're doing is coordinated with that work. The Riverwalk will tie in really nicely. So you could there's a bikeway on Taft Street. You could ride a bike from downtown. You could get off at Town Landing. You can ride on the Riverwalk and come right around the stadium and up through the parking area and circulate back up here. So it's a nice kind of bike loop, nice walking loop. But we do want to try to get this Riverwalk built. So when we open the stadium, this Riverwalk and this riverfront is actually all built and open. We likely will have an area where we'll still be building this building when the stadium gets opened. But hopefully not too long after we'll have the stadium, we'll have this building up and running. A couple other plans here. So this is our grading plan from the plan set. Really, the only thing of consequence here, I think, for this commission is we've been very thoughtful to the long-term sustainability of this facility. So we are raising the grade along the riverfront to make sure we're accounting for, sea level rise, et cetera, all those things that we want to think about these days. So the Riverwalk will be elevated, so it's protected. In addition, National Grid is armoring the riverfront with riprap to make sure that it's sustainable from sea level rise and from the velocities of water coming, in the river. So that's important here. So all those grades have been coordinated with that. In addition, National Grid is creating their remediation liner below the stadium, and we're going to build everything above that liner. So the grades come up above the liner. So once the liner goes down, the idea is that we won't have to go into the contaminated materials that are getting capped below the liner. So the foundations and utilities, et cetera, all the finishes are all above that liner. And then I'll get to a plan that's very congested here. This is our utility plan, and there's a few things that I want to highlight. So first, I'll start with this green line here that starts at the water. It works its way up, parallel with the stadium here, and then parallel with Taft Street along here. That is Narragansett Bay Commission's CSO pipe. So you all may be familiar with that, but Narragansett Bay is doing a whole lot of work in the city to remove sewer overflows from the river. So right now, the stormwater and the sewer in most of this area is combined in the same pipe. What happens when you get a big rainfall event, those pipes can't handle all of that. So there's actually overflows to the river. Narragansett Bay Commission is doing the CSO project where they're going to put in bigger pipes. They're going to put in these tunnels. That's going to make it so there's a lot less sewer overflow to the river. So this happens to be one of those pipes. So there still will be an overflow pipe here, but this pipe here is substantially bigger, and the downstream piping is substantially bigger. So there's a diversion structure that will take most of the flows will from this area of the city will come in. They'll take a left-hand turn and they'll go out to one of those tunnels and not go out to the river anymore. So the importance of that is the Seekonk River over the coming years, as this site is remediated, as the CSO work is done, the river is going to become a much cleaner place. And that goes along with the work we're doing to revitalize the riverfront with all these amenities. This is why we really feel like this will become a very vibrant place again. 3 to 5 years down the road, you're not going to recognize this area of the river. So we're super excited about that. Additionally, we're working with the Narragansett Bay Commission. They are the sewer. We need to get our sewer connection permit. We have approval from them, feasibility approval from them that we included with the application. But additionally, they have to actually sign off on our sewer connection permit. We've submitted that. It's in review. We should have that in the coming weeks. So we'll have there's a pump station at the lower level that pumps wastewater up ultimately through the concourse. It all gets picked up and discharged to the sewer system in Taft Street. So we're in good shape on our NBC sewer permit. The blue line here is how we're going to get water to the stadium. So Pawtucket Water Supply Board maintains water service to Pawtucket. We have approval to connect our water in at this location. That'll provide domestic water and fire service to the stadium. So we have that permit in place. And then probably most importantly is the stormwater management system. So I'll go through this from a high level, but what's really critical is that we treat water quality. So again, everything's going back to how can we clean up the Seekonk River. And this is another approach that we have now. So right now, a lot of the stormwater flows that flow in the city streets or flow on these sites, they basically discharge straight to the river with no water quality treatment. We are going to be treating all of that stormwater in accordance with the DEM CRMC guidelines. And I'll walk through from south to north how we're doing that. So the parking lot on the south side of the stadium in the driveway, before stormwater is discharged, there's going to be concrete panels, porous concrete panels that we're installing in these yellow highlighted areas. So the parking lot will sheet flow into these porous concrete panels that'll drain vertically downward. There's a layer of sand, the sand filter below that concrete that'll filter out any contaminants that come through that area from the parking lot before that water gets into an under drain and then discharges off to these catch basins and finally out to the river. So we're treating all of the parking lot and the driveway that way. The field in the stadium seating is being drained a similar way. So the stadium seating will have drains at the lower ends of the stadium that get picked up through this blue pipe here. That blue pipe gets conveyed into this yellow area, which again is a sand filter. So all of that stormwater gets collected. It drains through the sand, down through the sand. There's an under drain at the bottom of it after it's treated that gets picked up and discharged to this manhole here. And then it gets discharged out to the river. And then the same with the athletic field. So it's a synthetic turf field that will drain vertically down. It'll drain on grade, and that will also filter through the sand before going out to the site. And then finally, moving to the plaza to the north, all of our concourse drains. So these are small drains that'll pick up stormwater around the stadium. Those all drain up and over into another sand filter system below the concourse in this area prior to discharging into the stormwater system and out to the river. And then the final water quality treatment we have right now, there's a 36-inch city storm line that picks up a lot of drainage from this area of Pawtucket. Right now, that drainage discharges onto essentially a paved ditch that drains straight out to the river. So that paved discharges here and it drains all the way out. It's not a great approach because when stormwater comes out, any of the sand or sediment that's settled out just gets washed right into the river. Instead of doing that now, we're going to put a hydrodynamic separator. So a system that catches the stormwater, it treats it, it takes that sediment into a area where you can pump it out routinely. And instead of it just going out to the river, it's going to be in that system, gets pumped out, and then you get a cleaner discharge out to the river. So with all that being said, we've worked really hard on this stormwater design. Feel like it meets the city's requirements. It meets, and we've been working with CRMC staff, who's going to permit the RIPTES permit for this, and believe they've been satisfied that this meets the state requirements as well. And one last utility that I didn't mention, we also do have approval from National Grid to connect to the power system. So we have our permit for that. So I'm going to take this in a different direction here now, talk about the parcels. I probably could have put this first, but these are the parcels that are part of the project. So on the west side of the river, we have 3 parcels that are subject to this application, the 3 parcels in yellow here. The one to the north is owned by the city of Pawtucket, that we have a long-term lease that we've executed with the city. That's approximately 5.3 acres. The 2 parcels to the south are National Grid owned parcels. The area in yellow is the area that we are leasing. That line might change a little bit. We might actually end up leasing this whole piece here, but we're going to lease part of these parcels and then not lease part of the parcels that are part of the substation, primarily this area down here. Those areas total 8.5 acres. So the total, this side of the river is 13.85 acres. And then on the other side of the river, ultimately we'll come back and develop is about 11 acres, the 3 properties that are owned by the city. Back in February, we did rezone these parcels, as you all were part of that process, to the riverfront Tidewater zone. So that's now the underlying zone. These are the dimensional criteria that are applicable. I can tell you that we meet all of those requirements, the lot area, the frontage requirements, the setbacks, the building heights, et cetera. We meet all of those and believe we are fully zoning compliant with this application. In addition, we do believe we're compliant with the city's comprehensive plan. And now to take a different area of the presentation. So parking, we've spent a lot of time on parking. Obviously, we have two ways that we look at parking. One, we're going to have people that ultimately live at this site, that work at this site in the office building, that come to this site to eat, to shop, etc. So the first thing we looked at is on a day-to-day basis, we want to make sure that there's enough parking on site. And we submitted a shared parking study that Emily Foster and Dave Sullivan from SLR put together. And that shows how all of the uses that we're contemplating for the whole project, not just the stadium, but all the uses for the whole project complement each other really well. And we have an appropriate amount of parking to park all those people that will live, work, eat, shop on this site. When you look at the stadium events, that's a little bit of a different story. If we were to try to park everybody that was going to come to an event on this site, we'd have nothing but a parking lot. And we want to build a lot more than a parking lot. It wouldn't do what we want to do on the riverfront. It wouldn't revitalize. It wouldn't give the public access to the riverfront. It wouldn't give these great public plazas. So what we did was we looked and said, there's a whole lot of parking throughout the city. There's a lot of publicly owned. So all the areas in purple are city-owned or state-owned parking facilities. So there's a whole lot of those down in the downtown. There's a lot of parking at the high school and unfortunately at McCoy Stadium, which is now vacant. There's parking down at Verrier School, at Max Reed Field. And then there's parking that's going to come up at the train station, which is opening in 2022. What we want to do is find a way to utilize those parking lots. Our stadium events will almost completely be on nights and weekends. So on nights and weekends, if you drive through downtown, those parking lots are almost completely empty. The schools are empty at that time. So it really lends itself well to utilizing these parking lots, not creating a whole lot of new impervious surface just to have parking. But then we need to make sure that it works, right? Parking is critical for us in running a top shelf stadium, for having a soccer team and a venue that is going to thrive. We don't want people showing up frustrated that they can't park. We don't want people, being congested in traffic. So I'll go through how we're kind of approaching that a little bit, but it's front and center for us. If we're going to be successful with the stadium, we absolutely need to prioritize parking so our customers don't show up and be frustrated. The fan experience is everything at these venues. So again, I'll walk through how we're thinking about that. But then we do have some parking on site south of the stadium I highlighted. And right now in this interim plan, we do have some parking on the corner until we build out Division Street. We've got some parking that's currently out there now that we can utilize, but most of the parking is going to be off-site. So the orange area in this graphic shows a 1/4 mile radius around the sites. That's about a 5 to 6 minute walk, depending on how fast you walk. That's a very reasonable radius that people walk all day long. The 1/2 mile radius is about a 10 to a 12 minute walk radius. That's the area in yellow. So a lot of these areas are in that 1/2 mile radius. So I'm going to flip to this next graphic. I don't want to spend too much time on exactly where this is, but I'm presenting this because this is there's new technology out there for parking. And this really is going to be a key to how we solve this kind of urban downtown parking that's not central at the stadium. So what you see here is a graphic that shows a stadium, I won't name it, at the center, and a radius around it. So these radiuses are similar to the radiuses that we showed. It has a number of parking lots, as you'll see, that are around the stadium that are kind of scattered. There's really no on-site parking right now, although they're playing games there now and they have a lot of people coming there. But the beauty of this is they integrate this parking solution with their ticketing. So when you go online to buy a ticket, it actually says, okay, now you need to buy parking or you need to reserve parking. Some of the parking may be free, but you need to reserve your parking, and you can go on and say, okay, I want the free parking, or I want to pay $5 for parking. I'm going to park here in lot 22. It actually reserves that spot for you. It pulls up those options. You can reserve that spot. It also gives you the coordinates that you could plug into your phone. So when you're going to a game, you don't mistakenly go to the stadium, you go to lot 22. And what that does from a traffic perspective, it really is going to help out where you don't have people driving all over town wondering where they're going to park. You're parking in 22. And if you're using a GPS on your phone, it's actually going to get you there. And not everybody's going to be getting off the same exit, trying to get to the stadium at the same time. You're going to be going to all these different places. So it's going to really help out the congestion. It's also going to help where you're not frustrated, by the time you get to the stadium. So in our research, people are comfortable walking 10 minutes, 12 minutes to an event, as long as they don't show up frustrated and they're sitting in traffic for 45 minutes and then they're looking for parking for a half hour. That's not a good experience. That's not what we want. But this solution is going to help us solve this. So we submitted an interim parking plan. This is one of the strategies that we submitted. And then secondly, for those that don't want to walk 10 minutes, we've been working closely with RIPTA, and we'll continue to work with them. Obviously, the new train station going down in the Conan Thread area, there's a lot of bus service, and it's our understanding that bus service is actually going to be expanded in the coming years to support the extra volume that's anticipated at the train station. So we're trying to figure out with RIPTA, can we create some circulator routes where we have shuttles on game days, on event days? And we think RIPTA is highly receptive. We've had great conversations. We're going to continue those conversations. They're receptive to trying to figure out how they can provide some game day service, shuttle service. So we show, for an example here, one line in solid green. This would be kind of a downtown circulator. So if you parked in one of these remote lots up here, you could walk to one of the bus stops that already exist. You could jump on a shuttle and you get brought down to the stadium. Of course, you could walk as well. It's not a bad walk. And then we have a second circulator that would go over to McCoy, to that area, come down, drop you, and then work your way back up. And I should highlight one thing I didn't highlight earlier is you see that we haven't added any private parking lots into this plan. We do anticipate talking with private property owners. There's a lot of private property owners that would love to, get some revenue from game day parking. You'll see that in almost any stadium environment. We do intend to work with some of the private property owners to see if they're inclined. But we wanted to make sure that what we showed you all was within kind of municipal control, state control, within our control. So we have enough parking to manage from that perspective. With that, I'm going to jump off parking and go into the schedule. And again, Blair is here if you have any specific questions. But this is we have a much more detailed, you can see it goes to 403 items here, but we consolidated that for you so you didn't have to go through all that. But you can see where we are here in July. We're working on a lot of our bid packages. We're working on our permitting, obviously, working on our final design. The key dates are early this fall, starting some of the work on site, starting some of the ground improvement work. And then around November, we'll be starting vertical construction work, foundations, in other parts of the stadium. And really what's exciting for us, there's a lot in between that's going to take a lot of hard work, but to get to spring of 2023, where we'll be we'll be opening the stadium. This is our deadline to open. There'll be some minor closeout stuff that falls after that. But those are really the key dates. This fall, we'll start work, hopefully, and in the spring of 23, the stadium will be open. So with that, I'm not sure if I exceeded my 25-minute remarks, but I'm going to ask Darren and Jonathan if I missed anything. But if not, I'd love to throw it back towards you all. Darren, anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered everything, Dan. Nothing to add at the moment. Happy to answer questions if anybody has them.
Great. Jonathan, anything to add? I think you're muted.
Sorry, there we go. Yep, no, I'm good. You did a great job.
Okay. So Jay, Chairman.
Chairman Pedro, I think you're still muted.
Yeah, that's better. Commission members, do you have any questions, comments regarding the Phase 1A?
I do have one question. You didn't talk about the signs that you're gonna have, like on 95 or to get to and from. Can you elaborate on the sign?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit about it in the parking study. It will be critical that we highlight that that the stadium exits where we want people to get off.
Right.
So we will work with DOT on that front, and we will have to put together a wayfinding signage package that we'll have to work with the city, Department of Public Works, work with Jay, et cetera, to make sure people know how to get to the stadium. So absolutely something that's on our radar that we'll be putting together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, in terms of parking, 11,000 square foot seat stadium, what are you looking at in terms of parking spaces to accommodate that size stadium?
So for the stadium itself, typically, and every stadium is different, right? You get urban downtown stadiums where you get a lot of people walking, hopefully using public transit, like we intend to, really incentivizing things like rideshare, Uber and Lyft, et cetera. You could get down anywhere from, about one space needed for every 3 spots. You could get as high as 1 space for every four seats. So that's somewhere in the range of 2,000 to 3,300 parking spaces. And Emily, jump in if I'm misstating any of this, but I think we're providing about 2,300 spaces offsite in addition to the on-site spaces. So in the purple area, I think we've captured around that many spaces. So we do have as many parking spaces needed, potentially available in what we're highlighting compared to our anticipated demand for the stadium.
So you're looking at the higher ratio, the 1 to 5?
I think we're more on the 1 to 4, 1 to 4 ratio.
Okay. And that's based on, again, public parking, no teaming up with private parking at this point.
Exactly right. Yep. We'll have, the good news is we have a bit of runway on, before we open. We're going to be, staffing up. We're going to be hiring a president to run the organization, run the team, run the stadium, et cetera. As we do so, they'll start to put together all their operational plans for opening. And I know Jay did have as a condition the requirement to provide an update to the planning department on a more specific approach in the agreements that we have with the city, agreements we have with the private parties, agreements we have with RIPTA. So as we get closer to game day, and I think Jay had, which we're okay with, I think he had that we need to submit that at least 5 months in advance of our CO being issued. And we're completely okay with that. So we're going to start to really drill down on this, on these agreements. Like I said, we do feel like it's only upside that we can have. If there's local business owners that would like to sign up, it's only going to benefit the parking solution. But we wanted to make sure that we solve for the worst case scenario where folks said, we're not interested and we don't want to, have our parking lot used for parking.
Okay. And I know you showed a plan that showed RIPTA doing a loop. I mean, what are we looking at in terms of that loop? How many buses would be, doing that route? Is it just one bus at this point, or?
So I don't want to speak specifically for them. So we're in conversations still trying to, I think it would, in order for it to be effective, it would have to be more than one bus.
Right.
So we are in conversations. We have scheduled monthly meetings again, but there's absolutely interest to support this because it ultimately it benefits what RIPTA is trying to do globally, right? To get people to use public transit.
Yes.
It's a good thing to get people out of their cars and to be using public transit. So I think we're aligned on priorities to try to do that.
Okay.
Monique Renault here. I have one more question. You're talking about parking for game days and weekends and nights, but you're going to build a lot of shops around. So during the week, if you wanted to go shopping or if you want to go to one of the restaurants, where would you park?
Yeah, let me go back to this plan. So this interim plan, so we submitted an interim parking management plan, knowing that it's unlikely that in spring of 2023, for instance, that this building will be built, right? It's probably not going to be open. Inside this building, there's a 750 car parking garage. So once that building is built and once these shops and these apartments are open, there's a lot of parking inside this building. So once we open those shops, you'll be able to park here and walk directly into the shops. And then on the other side of the river, we do have this parking lot, which we will, have to clean up in this interim parking plan to be able to park cars here. But we have parking below the apartments here. We have parking here in between these apartments. So people that live here will park in these buildings, in this parking garage or in this parking. People that come and shop or they work in this building or they shop in these two buildings here, they'll be able to park in this parking lot. And then they'll be able to park also in the parking garage and walk across the bridge, which is connected right to the site. So in the final plan, that's where we have all the parking. We have plenty of parking, based on, in that parking study was submitted as part of the application. But we believe we have plenty of parking for the long-term plan for the day-to-day uses on site.
Yep, that's great.
Any other questions from other commission members?
I don't have any questions at this time.
This is Karen. I do have a quick question on the parking, and if people that want to walk within, say, the half-mile or quarter-mile radius, have you done any studies on pedestrian traffic at the other stadiums? If you have thousands of people trying to get from point A to point B all at the same time when an event lets out or prior to an event starting, have you done any studies on, pedestrian traffic? Like this lot here that's on the east side of the river. If people are getting out of the stadium at the same time, they're certainly not going to walk single file down Division Street, down the sidewalk. The fear is that there could be people walking in the street. So I was just wondering if you've done any studies on that, on pedestrian traffic trying to get to the lots, to the cars.
Yep. So I could tell you that we've been, and I think Jay has been part of this process, we've been working for the last 6 months or so on a study with DOT called, I'm going to butcher the actual, I know the acronym, but the actual name of it, I'm not sure, but DOT does something called a METSI study. It's a multimodal traffic safety audit, something like that. But it's specifically the specific reason that DOT engaged on that effort was because of our pedestrian focus for people walking through the downtown. So we actually worked with DOT, we worked with the city, We work with others. I think the police department was there, where we spent several days walking through the entire downtown area, looking at how people were going to get from downtown to the stadium site. And that report is being finalized now. So the idea is to make sure there's areas that aren't currently safe for pedestrians, to prioritize how we approach making those areas safer. So that study will be wrapped up, I think, in the next, actually, I think we have a final draft of it. It'll probably be wrapped up in the next couple of weeks. So that was something that was commissioned by DOT specifically for pedestrian safety, to make sure that people are walking and they're, accessing the stadium in a safe manner.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a quick question regarding the pedestrian bridge. It's not a part of phase 1A. Would that soon follow the pedestrian bridge? Would that be of paramount importance in terms of developing pedestrian traffic to the site, to the games?
Yes, yeah, it's definitely, so it is not part of phase 1A. As I stated, we would like to, hopefully in the next, by the end of the year, I'm hoping that we're in front of you all again for things like the pedestrian bridge, where we can, if we can, we'd love to have that pedestrian bridge, ready by game day. Right now, that's lagging a little bit. I'm not sure that if it will be completed by game day, but we absolutely, believe it's a fundamental piece to make sure we get done as soon as we can. So there may be a little bit of lag where, we have our parking management, our pedestrian management needs to be amplified a little bit on how we're dealing with pedestrians getting here. But hopefully it'll be a very short-term time frame between when that bridge is in and when the stadium is open.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jay, any other questions from the commission members? Jay, what's our next? Is it opening up to questions to the public, or would it be staff comments?
Yeah, I think a lot of the public have been waiting patiently. We have a few hands raised, so if you want to go that route first before our staff recommendation.
Sure. Just in terms of opening it up to the public, we'd like to keep it brief as possible. Try not to repeat other concerns, but we're looking forward to hearing the public's questions and comments and some of the responses, the answers from the developer. So I guess we'll open it up.
So again, obviously, it seems like some folks have already raised their hand. If you're a member of the public, you can hit the raise your hand icon, or there's also a written Q&A button that you can select. If you're on a phone, you can also press *9 if you'd like to make a comment, and we will work our way through the list. I know that Everett Pope had some questions on the front end, so we'll allow him to speak first. So Mr. Pope, go ahead. If you can just state your name and your address for the record.
I'm sorry, Jay, I didn't hear what you were saying.
Everett, you can go ahead with your questions that you stated earlier, and if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Everett Pope, and my current address is 173 Montgomery Avenue, Providence, Rhode Island. Yeah, I just have those are my two main concerns. I know you guys are doing a lot of development, but number one, I'm aware of a resolution that Tidewater Landing was in agreement on with the Top Street Garden, in concern with our gardening beds and stuff like that. And my second question would be basically how willing is this group to work with local businesses within the area, because again the stadium is going to it's going to cause a little bit of it's going to be like a popular attraction. You guys are building an 11,000 seater stadium. I know you guys are anticipating to sell out crowds and stuff like that. How are you guys going to help out the local commerce that's already going on in Pawtucket and the surrounding areas?
Jay, should I take these one by one?
Sure. Yes. I think
Okay.
that makes the most sense.
Everett, thank you for your time. Great questions. The first question about the Taft Street Community Garden, really happy to report we've been working super hard on working with that group. It really is a fantastic group. We've gotten very close with the folks that are running the day-to-day of the garden. We had worked with them on trying to find a new home for the Taft Street Community Garden. Right now it's just north of the stadium site. We reached out to them early on in the process and tried to find a site. So the good news is we designed with them a new home at the Barrier School site. We worked with them to get approval by the school board and the city council to move that garden there. We had our landscape architects work on the design. And the really exciting part is on August 7th, we're actually going to have a community build day led by Dimeo Construction, where we're actually going to be relocating the garden. Dimeo is currently, and thanks to Blair on the call here, is currently creating the new plant beds in their shop so that on August 6th, they can deliver those and start installing them. Then on August 7th, we're going to have a day where we'd love anybody in the community that wants to be a part of that day, which we think is going to be a lot of fun. Going to show up and we're going to build a beautiful new community garden on that site. So that's been a lot of fun. And I'd say that's how we look at our involvement in the community. We really do want to be a positive influence to the extent we can. So to your second point, it kind of bleeds into that. We want to be as supportive as we possibly can to any local business owner. So if there's a specific business, Everett, that you're a part of, we'd love to talk to you and see how we may be able to support you. We do think that the project will provide a lot of benefits to the downtown area, to business owners there. One of the reasons why having a non-centralized parking plan actually is great, because the more people we have in the downtown area walking to the stadium, we sure hope that they're going to stop for dinner in one of the local shops, or they're going to stop for a coffee. They're going to stop to buy, goods at one of those businesses. So there's kind of an extra benefit, we think, to the downtown area, to those business owners, of bringing more people, having, as they say, more boots on the ground, is only going to positively benefit local businesses. But if you have a specific request, please reach out to me, and love to find a way that we could support you.
Yeah, no problem. Is your email available anywhere I could find it?
Yeah, I'll give it to you now. It's easy. It's Dan@fortuitouspartners.com.
Okay, Dan@fortuitouspartners.com. I'll write that when I get home. Thank you so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate it. And thanks for actually following on the gardening promise and stuff like that. That's major. I really, really do appreciate that, man. That's what's up. Thank you.
Thank you, Everett.
All right, I see we have a few more hands here. The Michael Pompili, I'm going to elevate you to panelist for you to speak. All right, Michael, you should be all set.
Extension, please dial it now.
Michael, you're still muted.
Okay.
Open by appointment only from 9 a.m.
Okay, it should be okay now. Mike Pompili, 21 Glenwood Avenue in Pawtucket. So I had a comment about the parking. Anecdotally, I've heard that from the stadium example that you had showed earlier, that people come in before the games, attend the game, and then leave. And what's happening on game days is that the businesses in the Canal District are actually suffering because stadium attendees take up all the parking. Also, as someone who lives within that 12-minute walking zone from the stadium, I don't want the neighborhood streets to be clogged with parking on game days either. Sorry. One thing I was wondering, looking at the conceptual master plan, was that there's a large surface lot on Division Street between the proposed retail and the street. Is it possible, as part of the build out, to have a garage there to accommodate more game day parking that would also give the advantage of having ground floor retail in the garage and providing a street wall on Division Street?
Michael, is that your? I was just going to take them all when you had all your questions, but if that's it, happy to answer.
Yeah, that was it. Just concerns with the parking itself, and I don't want to see huge impervious space paved over just for game day parking. But it looks like there's that opportunity on the site to accommodate a bit more and also improve the street wall on Division Street.
Yeah. So no, good question. One rendering that we did not have. We do have plans in phase 2 where that parking lot is to actually do some additional development. We have a event center conceptually planned. The concept is trying to bring as many people into the downtown area as we can to really revitalize downtown Pawtucket. So that area is, in the long term, is planned for some sort of destination driver to drive traffic into the downtown area, into the city area. So that specific site, while it definitely looks prime for a big parking garage on that corner, we have plans to put something there in the future. That being said, when that event center comes, we will be looking at a need, as if you dive into the parking study, there will be a need for additional parking. And at that point, we will look to build another parking garage. But that's in kind of phase 2, which is probably several years down the road. So that site, while it looks prime for a garage, in the long-term plan is not what we're planning there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next we have Andrew Kennedy. Andrew, I'm going to elevate you to panelist.
You might be able to bring Andrew and Pat Kinghorn in. They're both from the Taft Street Community Garden. You might be able to bring them in together.
Okay.
Hi, can everybody hear me all right?
Yep,
yes.
We got you, Andy.
Awesome. So my name is Andrew Kennedy. I'm a co-director of the Taft Street Garden. And I think I'm here to deliver more of a statement on behalf of the garden, just to talk about, where we've been the past year, how we've been involved in this, this whole process and what our trajectory is. So for those of you who don't know, we're a local nonprofit community garden on Taft and Spencer Street. We provide food and gardening education opportunities to Pawtucket, to the greater community. And so when Tidewater Landing was proposed, we realized that the Taft Street Garden is located on the site of the proposed soccer stadium. So we established, initial contact with Fortuitous and the city of Pawtucket. And with the help of both of them, we've finally secured a new location for the garden, and we plan to be up and running, as Dan mentioned, behind the Verrier School starting this September. So we're really looking forward to that. We're looking forward to staying around in the community, and it's just really good news. So, I just want to share that the news is, it's thanks to a lot of donated time and efforts and funds of supporters of the garden. So last year, Dan Krober, who now you all know, of Fortuitous, made a really early commitment to help us with the relocation, and has worked with us directly to create tailored site plans for our garden needs. And so Fortuitous worked with us on our needs for the space, and they initiated the dialogue with the city to to start getting a conversation going about a lease for a new spot. And so that's now in the past. That process was, very smooth. And so since being approved, we have started working on the construction phase, which includes all kinds of things like fencing, new planting beds, a pavilion, a water hookup. And that's all been spearheaded by Dimeo, the construction company. And so they've offered up their time, their labor, their expertise, their equipment to see the construction through. So it's really exciting news. We've also, the Narragansett Bay Commission has committed to providing support for the garden as well. So we're very excited to share this good news with the community, to affirm that we are still here, that we're going to be sticking around. We're going to be starting up at our new location behind the Barrier School. And it's thanks to the hard work and to the willingness of the gardeners, of Fortuitous, of NBC, Dimeo, and of course, cooperation from the city of Pawtucket. So please show up on our Community Build Day, August 7th. We'd love to see you there. And if you have any more questions for me, want to know more about the garden, I'm just going to plop my email into the chat for all of you. So thank you. That concludes my statement from Taft Street.
All right, we have Patricia and Pat too that are also panelists now, if you have any comments.
No, I just want to second everything that Andy has said and invite everybody to come to our building day. You can go home with some fresh greens or maybe a ripe tomato. There are definitely ripe tomatoes or cucumbers. So we will be very happy to provide produce for anybody that shows up that day to help us. We will be, for the time being, in 2 spots because you can't move tomatoes that are already planted. So we have some little logistical things going on, but we would love to see everybody at both spots. We meet on Wednesday afternoons at 4:30 and on Sunday afternoons at 4 o'clock. So if you're in the area, come by Taft Street and then come by Barrier School and join us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Pat and Andy.
All right, is there anyone else with comments or questions on the development? I don't see anyone else with.
I think we had Pat.
Yeah, Pat Ford here.
Pat Ford, yes.
Is it my turn to speak, sir?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Very good. Thank you very much for the forum here. I respectfully would request the Planning Commission to do anything, if possible, in their power to put an end to this project. The type of process that allowed this to be created is in defiance of the spirit of cooperation that existed during the discussions around the Paw Sox Stadium. The overwhelming opposition, if you will, by Rhode Island residents to using tax subsidized tax subsidized building of a stadium was silenced because of the way the General Assembly and and Mr. Stephen Pryor real public input during this. So we're left with these type of scraps. No disrespect intended. For my question, and by the way, let's be blunt. The Major League facility just 25 to 30 miles up the road, pre-COVID, had an attendance decline every year. We're talking about building additional retail space in a time of a pandemic, if you will, and also in a time when the internet is destroying, if you will, that business model. We're talking about adding expensive apartments to an area that desperately needs affordable housing. But let's get to the basic premise here. My understanding is this employs a TIF style of financing where sales taxes from the municipality will be directed towards servicing, if you will, the debt service and the debt for the construction of this project. And only in government ideas could this be considered self-paying, as if any of your businesses could keep their sales tax to pay your overhead. So my question is, what is the definition and the size and the scope of that part of Pawtucket for whom sales taxes will be collected? And if in fact the project is not successful, as so many stadiums of its types have failed across the nation, what will be the backstop if in fact those sales tax collections are not sufficient to meet debt service? Who ends up paying?
So Jay, I'm not sure if those questions are in the purview of the Planning Commission.
Well, they haven't been answered yet, so we'd like them answered.
Well, again, Mr. Ford, the Planning Commission is not here to discuss debt service. It is for the design of the project.
Right. All right, then let me ask you a question about the design of the project. Since the Fortuitous and the city of Pawtucket and the mayor's office have routinely failed to discuss who's actually going to be getting their sales taxes collected to pay for this. The implication here is that somehow people walking to the stadium will take the time out between the rushed arrival of parking and the onset of a soccer game or any type of event and go and support local businesses. That's absolute nonsense. And, we see the economic development that took place over generations at McCoy, which is to say there's none. My question is, aren't buildings like yours, particularly your soccer stadium, much like, if you will, casinos, and much like shopping malls, designed to be self-sufficient to encourage all the spending to take place within the facility? And won't that, in fact, take business away from parking beleaguered local businesses who are not part of your development?
So I'm trying to figure out how that ties into the Planning Commission's purview.
Sir, if you can't answer any of these questions, I'll withdraw my time. But it's clear that you are either unwilling or unable to answer fundamental questions about the project. So when will you answer those to the public?
I appreciate the uplifting support, Mr. Ford, but
well, you're not getting it.
We've routinely answered every question that's come our way. I've never met you before. This is the first time I'm ever hearing the question, but appreciate the questions.
If this is the first time you're being asked, then that's nonsense.
I've never met you before. Would love to talk to you.
How many times have you appeared publicly in Pawtucket or in any of the parts of Rhode Island to actually publicly discuss the situation? Can you point to dates that I might have missed?
Dozens of times, Mr. Ford. We've had public meetings for the last 2 years, so I'm glad that you're tuning in now.
So a proposal when you were available and why you simply won't answer the questions now. Then it should be easy for you. The answer is you can't. Or you don't, or not.
Well, that's not true. I can answer all of them. It's just not in the purview.
All right, then let's set a time and date. I'll call your office tomorrow morning. Let's set a time and date when you can come on the air on our media outlet, and you'll be able to answer those questions. How about that? In the spirit of cooperation. I'll even do what I don't usually do. I'll submit the questions to you ahead of time so you can collect the data. How about that? Are you willing to?
So if I may add, just for context, obviously the purview of the Planning Commission is the design proposal itself, as you are aware, Mr. Ford, and not necessarily the financing at this time. I'm not the expert on the financing structure, obviously, because that is not our responsibility. As I understand the process for the state TIF, the agreement between Fortuitous and the PRA and the state financing component will require a master developer agreement that goes before the Pawtucket City Council.
Right.
That will be at a future date, and that will be a public hearing that is specifically related to the financing.
And the hallmark of projects in Pawtucket, respectfully, is then we find this out at the last minute. We always find out at the last minute because of Grebian administration, and I understand your purview. So why don't we focus then on my question? My question is, from a design perspective, on what basis do you expect people walking through a community on their way to a game to stop and actually use any of those local businesses? On what studies, on what facts do you base that contention, or is it sheer speculation? That's a design question.
I'm not sure it is, but
okay. Well, you made a point of bringing it up in the meeting. You made that a point. As a result, you introduced that into the conversation. What developers like you are very good at doing is laying out subtleties, nuances, creating ideas without actually taking responsibility for them. You mentioned that specifically tonight as a design addition, if you will, something that was accrued to income and the potential for the project. Why don't you explain what you based it on, sir, if you in fact can? And are you willing to discuss this situation on the air at any time soon?
So Jay, I'm not sure how to respond or if it's
So
relevant
you're
or
a
not.
sophisticated investor who builds multi-million-dollar projects routinely. To that, I give you all the credit in the world. To say that you're not sure how to respond to a remarkably straightforward question proves either, well, I won't say ignorance because you're obviously a very intelligent man, or an unwillingness to discuss it. You brought it up tonight. Why don't you address on what speculation or what facts you base the notion that additional parking out that will clog up neighborhoods will somehow be a positive for local businesses as they will stop by and use them? Upon what basis have you arrived at that?
So, Mr. Ford, having more people in a downtown environment as opposed to having nobody in a downtown environment, during those times when you have businesses open, that's going to be a positive thing, right? You have people in an area that are not there right now. Those people will spend money. So,
as someone who worked in the direct environs of Foxborough Stadium, again, a Major League Soccer facility whose attendance has gone down 4 years in a row pre-corona, all right, I can tell you that based on personal experience, that's nonsense. But if you have traffic studies, if you're just putting out there general speculation, they're going to be in the neighborhood, so they might stop by. I don't think that's a great addition to the process here. All right?
So, Mr. Ford, I'd love you to take the time to review the file. We've spent literally the last year working on traffic studies, parking studies, engineering plans, working with the public. If you could let me finish, Mr. Ford. I'm not going to talk if you're going to interrupt every word I say, but I appreciate it.
You're unwilling to answer simple questions.
Okay.
I just answered them, but you talked right over me, so you didn't hear it, sir. So I appreciate
you're
it.
citing studies that you won't. You know what? Provide me with the studies. I'll call your office tomorrow.
They're in the file, sir.
Very
and
good.
I'm sure you'll be happy to release them. Or will we have to go through a multi-week
They're public documents, sir.
Pawtucket City Hall. Okay.
They're public documents.
That doesn't mean much in the city of Pawtucket. Ask the city solicitor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Very good, sir. Listen,
Thank
the point's been made. Good luck.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
We'll be talking soon.
Any other questions or comments from the public?
Thank you for calling Pawtucket City Hall. If you know the extension, please dial it now. Due to COVID-19,
Chairman, there doesn't appear to be any additional that's in the Q&A, nor
All right.
So
I guess the next step would it be staff?
Yes, and I know that Mr. Ford was looking for some of the application materials. I do have his contact information, so I'm happy to forward that tomorrow. So regarding the staff recommendation, Jay Rosa of the Pawtucket Planning Department, to reiterate, so we're all on the same, we're all of the same understanding. The Planning Commission voted in support of the master plan. I'm sorry if there's someone that is has a bit of noise. Maybe if we can mute ourselves. I don't necessarily know who that is. All right, it seems like it has stopped. So again, the Planning Commission voted in support of the master plan for the full Tidewater landing proposal back in January. And the applicant is now requesting preliminary plan approval for the stadium component with obviously associated river access, public plaza, and the multi-site parking strategy. As Mr. Krober mentioned, the Pawtucket Riverfront Commission reviewed this same proposal last night and voted unanimously to recommend approval to the Planning Commission. They were in an advisory capacity and recommended that the Planning Commission approve this preliminary plan application. Although we are focused on the stadium component specifically for this public hearing, I should state, and Mr. Krober mentioned this earlier, I should state that the engineering and the architectural plans for future phases of the overall Tidewater landing project will also be reviewed by this Planning Commission at a public hearing in the coming months. Fortuitous, obviously, over the last few months has worked closely with the city, National Grid, and applicable state agencies to move this design project forward. And additionally, the city itself has hired both the Power Corporation and CBRE as consultants based on their construction management and engineering expertise to review all of these application materials with us and to review future construction. So we have that additional technical expertise. They have, they being CBRE and PAR, have submitted their written comments to the commission in advance of this meeting for the record as Exhibit A. Although they provided their full comments, the majority of which have been folded into our staff recommendation. So obviously we as staff are highly supportive of the project, both the full development and the stadium specifically that is before the commission for review this evening. From a design standpoint, the proposal checks off a lot of priorities for development along the river, long-standing priorities for river development, including economic development, so new jobs, new businesses, additional buying power coming into the city to support existing businesses. And then the stadium design that also makes a deliberate effort to maintain strong links to the existing downtown area. Obviously, another benefit of improved public access to the river in the form of bike and pedestrian paths along the river, as well as the public plaza. It was stated during the presentation, but the city has worked over decades to extend its bicycle infrastructure, and this is a critical component to carry the path south, excuse me, towards Providence. Additionally, improved opportunity or improved recreation opportunity, both public recreation and private recreation for area residents and visitors. Improve site stormwater management that is in close proximity to the river. So obviously environmental sensitivity there with reducing a lot of the untreated water that is sheeting directly into the Seekonk River and the Narragansett Bay from there. Obviously the environmental remediation of a brownfield site in close proximity to the river. This site has been identified for remediation for over a decade. Of critical importance to have National Grid create that cap and then make the site prime for redevelopment of this scale. And then obviously, I would say lastly, both the river slope reinforcement that was mentioned and the site regrading itself, overall elevating the stadium, which are certainly beneficial from an erosion and climate change adaptation perspective. Again, this is the vision that we've had for a long time for these critical sites along the river south of 95. And as I said, the development proposal, particularly the preliminary plan that's before us, addresses many of those concerns and goals for the area and addresses it well, in our opinion. Additionally, the stadium itself, we feel, is well designed. We didn't talk about the design in too much detail, but it's configured towards the river itself. This works well from a user experience standpoint, but also serves to direct much of the sound and light away from established residential neighborhoods to the west in an effort to offset that impact. Obviously, we can't capture all impact, but there's a design element that is specifically intended to reduce impact. There is adequate circulation around the stadium. We've reviewed with our emergency officials. So allowing adequate emergency access around the entirety of the stadium should the need arise for that access. And also, those fine detail notes in terms of, loading and waste removal situated within the stadium itself. So not overly visible, not impacting the quality of the river, not impacting residential neighborhoods to the west. So again, one of those fine detail items, design items that we appreciate. We also support the open concourse design of the stadium. This seems to be common for new stadiums, particularly soccer stadiums, creating more of an intimate fan experience, but also resulting in a less bulky stadium, less bulky structure that is more aesthetically appealing for immediate residents and also visitors, but also maintaining critical sight lines to the natural river amenity. That's a goal of the Riverfront Commission that we feel that this design achieves well. So again, as I said, this type of development has really been envisioned by the city as far back as 2011 with our Riverfront Development Plan. So this really is a large accomplishment to see the vision moving forward. So commend the development team, commend various state agencies, and commend the city and the Planning Commission for that matter for really pushing forward to achieve, what seems like is sometimes really hard to achieve, but it's exciting to see it moving forward and proceeding as we've envisioned for years. We do have a few recommendations based on our staff review that I'll go through quickly. They were obviously included in our report, so I'll be brief. The configuration of the parking lot access point from Taft Street, so that permanent surface parking area to the south of the stadium, includes a stop bar that is set back from Taft Street. We just identified this as a driver sightline issue. It seems like it would be an easy fix, either relocating the stop bar or clearing some landscaping in that area, just to allow for more safe, particularly vehicles exiting the site, just clear visibility upon entering Taft Street in that location. Very minor item, but we think that it's of critical importance and is a relatively easy fix. For the Riverwalk itself, obviously we acknowledge that that construction is under National Grid's purview, but we've seen, or we've not necessarily seen the definitive final paving material for that Riverwalk. So whether it be pavers, asphalt, or crushed stone, we just want to confirm that there's adequate capacity of the Riverwalk, particularly for emergency access, in the event that it is needed there. So that's something we're obviously working with Grid and Fortuitous on, but an item I wanted to bring to the attention of the commission for the specific reason of maintaining emergency circulation around the entirety of the stadium structure. And lastly, regarding parking and traffic impacts, this is obviously a very important component for both from both the city's standpoint and area residents. The strategy for year one stadium operations is, as Mr. Krober identified, is reliant on off-site parking with walking to the stadium and shuttle service. The interim parking plan also includes the real-time parking app that was described, so stadium users are directed away from the site or directed directly to off-site parking areas as opposed to the stadium itself. So we're not seeing a lot of visitors circulating through the neighborhoods and through the residential neighborhoods to minimize that level of traffic. Although we're supportive of this approach and we've certainly seen it work elsewhere, we recommend that this strategy continue to be refined, which it seems like the applicant is certainly willing to do so and places a priority on. Specific updates and additional detail include how stadium access will be managed on game days. So details like shuttle frequency, as Chairman Pedro mentioned, coordinating with police details and how those should be managed to direct traffic away from residential streets and to enforce any parking restrictions that we may develop in terms of preventing long-term event parking on established residential streets, particularly to the west, up in those neighborhoods. Obviously, the success of this interim parking strategy is in everyone's best interest, that it works well year one. So we'll continue to coordinate with the applicant on these items. But again, clearly this is of critical importance. So we recommend that the interim parking strategy that's been submitted, or we've been referring to it internally as the game day parking plan, be presented again to the public in the future as it's finalized. We also recommend that traffic and parking management operations be monitored regularly, particularly in that critical first year, so we can adjust as needed with the goal to obviously maintain and improve efficiency as much as possible and to minimize impact on residential neighborhoods as much as possible as well. Those are our primary goals for traffic moving forward, and we've made that evident to the Fortuitous team, and that's a goal of theirs as well. So again, looking to see that interim plan really finalized and ironed out and presented to the Planning Commission at a future public meeting. Beyond these recommendations, we find that the proposal is highly consistent with the goals of the Pawtucket City Comprehensive Plan, which I will read for the record. Bear with me, there's quite a few of them, which is usually a good sign. Land use chapter goal number 2, to invest in the city's designated growth center and recognize the different objectives of its components, including the riverfront. Land use objective number 4, to increase the amount of available public recreation areas. Land use policy number 4, to maintain an updated file on all brownfield sites and encourage the remediation of these sites where necessary. Land use policy number 7, to accommodate new industrial, commercial, residential, and other developments through carefully considered rezoning. Obviously, these sites have been rezoned by the city within the last year, and the Planning Commission did comment and support that rezoning effort as well. Land use policy number 8, to implement the riverfront development plan, which I mentioned. And land use policy number 9, wherever possible, encourage pedestrian and bicycle links along the riverfront as well as throughout the city. Moving on to our economic development chapter. Goal number 3, to promote economic growth that capitalizes on the city's strengths. Goal number 4, use the growth center as a focus for economic development. Objective number 2, to increase the number of businesses in Pawtucket. Objective number 3, to increase the number of jobs in Pawtucket. Policy number 1, to support development that creates a strong, diverse, and vital commercial downtown area. And policy number 11, to utilize federal and state programs and financial incentives as a means to assist developers in remediation and reuse of brownfield sites within the city. And lastly, our recreation chapter, goal number 3, to develop recreation resources that link recreation sites, cultural sites, and natural resource sites, including the Blackstone River Valley, the 10 Mile River Bikeway, and walkways along both sides of the Pawtucket River, which obviously this design proposal aims to achieve. So based on these findings, for the record, our staff recommendation is conditional preliminary plan approval for the stadium component, or what we've been referring to as phase 1A of the overall proposed Tidewater redevelopment project. Subject to 16 conditions. So again, bear with me as I read these for the record. Condition number 1, the applicant shall submit an updated interim parking management plan for review by the Planning Commission at a future public meeting to include more detail regarding off-site parking locations, shuttle operations and frequency, management of the real-time parking app, wayfinding types and locations, suggested police details and street parking enforcement for game day operations, the communication strategy to inform residents of event and parking related updates, and a schedule for anticipated completion of the final interim parking management plan to be completed in coordination with the city and police department at least 5 months prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the stadium itself. Number 2, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall submit a construction management plan detailing construction scheduling, staging, and project management contact information to the Pawtucket Director of Public Works and the building official. 3, prior to the issuance of building permits, all public right-of-way alterations, including but not limited to sidewalk and curb cut alterations, shall be submitted to the Pawtucket Department of Public Works for review and approval. 4, the applicant shall monitor traffic flow and capacity specifically during stadium events in coordination with Rhode Island Department of Transportation and the Pawtucket Department of Public Works to identify any mitigation actions that may be required to maintain safe vehicular circulation. 5, temporary gravel parking areas shall be limited to the first year of stadium operation only unless otherwise extended by the Pawtucket Director of Public Works. The applicant shall also submit updated site plans for all temporary parking areas detailing surface material, stall and aisle dimensions, and any screening, whether landscape or otherwise. 6, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall receive final CRMC approval for all stadium and associated construction. 7, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall submit required floodplain elevation certificates and map amendments. 8, the applicant shall establish a master developer agreement and any associated agreements with the city of Pawtucket, specifically detailing project construction, maintenance, infrastructure improvements, and cost responsibility for both parties. 9, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall finalize all easements required to maintain appropriate access for public use, maintenance, and utilities. 10, the applicant shall submit a final stadium signage plan for review and approval by the Pawtucket Planning Department and zoning officials. 11, all site and stadium lighting shall be designed and configured as to minimize glare on abutting properties, particularly residential properties located to the west. 12, all site stormwater management infrastructure shall be operated and maintained to ensure functionality and efficiency. 13, the applicant shall complete all required administrative subdivisions associated with parcel reconfiguration and record in the land evidence record. 14, stop bars located at the Tidewater Street access point shall be located in a manner that ensures adequate driver sightlines for vehicles entering and exiting the property. 15, the applicant shall comply with all required state and local license requirements for events and the sale of alcohol at all times. And lastly, 16, prior to the issuance of building permits, all final certified architectural, engineering, stormwater, and landscape plans shall be submitted for final administrative review and approval by the Pawtucket Planning Department. So that's a mouthful, but that's all that I have, Chairman Pedro.
Thank you, Jay. Any final questions or comments from the commission members? All right, hearing no questions or comments, I guess I would entertain a motion for approval of the development plan, a conditional approval on the development plan presented tonight.
I happily would like to make the motion.
Thank you, Monique. Motion is made by Commissioner Renaud for the conditional approval. Any second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Kaloje. A roll call vote. Commissioner Kaloje.
Yes.
Commissioner Renaud.
Yes.
Commissioner Olarte.
Yes.
Commissioner Martins.
Ted, you're still on mute. If you can unmute yourself.
He stepped away.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Pedro votes yes.
So that appears to be a 4-0
Okay.
vote in support of the preliminary plan application.
And thank you for
Awesome.
thank you for an awesome presentation, and look forward to the project being developed quickly.
Thank you all very much for all your time and effort in this. We look forward to getting started soon.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Jay, next up, future
Oh, this-
agenda
this
items.
Ted.
What's that, Monique?
This Ted.
Is that his jacket or is that Ted?
No, I think it's him. I'm not sure. He's muted anyways. Ted, you there? I think he's on the phone.
Yeah. So future agenda items, the St. Edward's Church on Whedon Street. I believe the address is in the 390s. It's just after Lonsdale Avenue. That has been sold to a private developer. It's proposed for residential conversion. So it's the same folks that did the last phase of the Slater Cotton Mill project and also the Churchill Grammar School. So they have a pretty good track record in Pawtucket. They do good work. They're also proposing new construction across the street. So there's a pretty large parking lot across the street. So they're looking for additional new residential units there. They're scheduled for the zoning board at the end of this month. So we expect that they will submit a master plan application for us to review at our August meeting. So that is expected. And then additionally, I have an update on our remote meeting requirements.
Oh,
So
yeah.
the directive we've received from the city clerk's office is that the governor's executive order will not be extended beyond next week. So we are permitted to have in-person meetings, public hearings moving forward starting in August.
Okay.
I think that will set up a remote component where we meet in person, but members of the public still have remote access. But that is still being worked out with IT. So for the time being moving forward, we're back in person. And we'll find larger rooms so we're not sitting as close as the planning commission room.
All right, very good.
Jay, you said the church, St. Edward's Church, But what about the school next to it? Is that part of it?
That's part of it, yes. So
Oh,
it's the
okay.
entire complex.
All right. Okay, and what about 7-Eleven?
They are waiting for their final building permit approval and their fire review. So
So-
we've signed off. They have all of their state permitting. It is just a matter of the building permits being issued.
All right, so the plans have been submitted.
That's correct.
Good, good. All right.
One more question. There's a vacant building on York and Columbus. A big gray building that really is pretty badly taken over by weeds and everything. Is there anything I can do with that?
York and Columbus?
Yeah, it
I
was
think
a
it's the
bar.
old Indian Lounge.
That's
Yeah,
it.
the old Indian Lounge.
Yeah.
Was there the fire there recently?
Then it was
Next to the.
Triple P or something.
Okay. We can certainly take a look at it. I'll refer it over to our zoning officials. They can certainly take a
Yeah,
look if
it's
there's any
really
code
bad.
compliance issues. Okay, I'll take a look at that.
It's not, it looks like it's totally abandoned right now.
Is that the one that looks like it was under construction and then stopped?
Yeah. Yeah, they try to do something and then
Yeah.
that's it.
York, the corner of York and Columbus?
York, yeah.
Okay, I'll take a look.
So the industrial highway is right there, the railroad tracks,
Okay, yes.
and then that building that I go by almost every day. It's just so bad.
All right, well, thank you for the notice and we'll talk to the zoning official about that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. No comments, I guess, motion to adjourn?
Oh, I can make that too.
So
I'll make a
moved.
motion to adjourn.
So moved. Seconded,
I second it.
and all in favor, say aye.
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 We are officially adjourned. Thank you again, Jay. Thank you all, commission members.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Good night.
Have a good night.
Guys.
Thanks, Anthony.